Hi, I'm Claire Birmingham, and I want your flute students to sound awesome. I'm a professional flutist in Las Vegas, Nevada. Today's video is a companion tutorial to an exercise I wrote to help your flute students have great hand position. In my experience with my private flute students and what I've seen when I've gone and worked with band classes is that a lot of students struggle with the initial transition from the head joint to the full flute. I think it's not that hard to understand why. They start with this head joint and they get to the point where they're making a great sound on it. But then you put the full flute together. The balance center is very different. Their hands are much farther away from their bodies. And a lot of students struggle to get that sound, that great head joint sound that they made to translate to the full flute because they're having a hard time finding that same spot that they had before. And so I wrote this exercise as a way for students to have more of a period of transition in between those 2 points, in between head joint and full flute. So this exercise can be played with only the left hand. I like to teach one hand at a time, and I like to start with the left hand because it's the primary weight bearer of the flute. It's going to be underneath the instrument, while the right hand is more about balance. And so if you did not get your copy of the exercise, it is available. I'll link it below. It's a free download. So pause the video, grab your copy, and then come back and join us. I'm going to start by doing a playthrough demo of the exercise. And then I'll talk about what I'm doing and why. So this exercise is called left hand buns because I'm playing hot cross buns in a bunch of different keys that I can do on the flute using only my left hand. In my opinion, I wrote this exercise for you, not to hand out to your students. I don't hand it to my private students. I just teach them the method. I teach them what to do, where to put their fingers, and what to play. I wrote the exercise so that you would know what to tell them, where to put their fingers, and what to play. And that's just because I think that for a very beginning student, this would be pretty daunting to look at. The notes go really high. It would be a lot to take in visually. And so I like them just to focus on the physiological sensations, what it feels like having their hand on the flute, making that sound after transitioning from the head joint only to now having the full instrument. So this is something that I do without getting into reading music notation. It's more about the sensations of the hands and making the sound. So then to get that great left hand position, I would invite your students to stand up for this part. I'm going to start. I learned this method from Lee Pearson. She's an expert in body mapping for the flute, and I love the way that she talks about hands. So we're going to start by holding the flute like it's a suitcase, not like a flute. Go ahead and grip it right there and hold it at your side. So I will have my students look to the left a little bit, think 45 degrees. Your eyes go first and then your chin follows. And then from there, bring the flute right up to your chin. Still like a suitcase, not like a flute. And then I will grip the barrel of the flute. Right there, that spot where there's no rods, there's no keys to grip. Right there, this right hand is just for stability while my left hand figures out what it's doing. So here I am with the right hand and the left. I'll show you what that looks like from standing. So you can see there I've got my flute like a suitcase at my side. I'm going to look left, let my eyes go first and my chin will follow. And then I'll bring the flute right up to my chin, still like a suitcase, and grip with the right hand on the barrel. Now, with my suitcase, I let my fingers slide out to the keys, and notice how I took the shortest possible path to get there. Shortest possible path to get to the keys. And I did not take it off and reset where I might just put it anywhere. So suitcase, slide on out. You'll notice that in the back of the flute, that means my thumb is a little higher up than some kids will naturally put it. I'm basically operating that key with my knuckle, my first knuckle on my thumb, right here. The reason I like to do that is if I'm using the pad of my thumb, the finger, now I've brought my whole hand a little farther away from the flute where it's a little harder to support it. So I've got my suitcase. Here's my suitcase from this side. Slide out, and there's my thumb using my knuckle. One more. Here's my suitcase. Slide on out. And I've got the right hand there just for stability. From there, I'll just play my exercise. And that's all the right hand's going to do. It's going to be about stability right now, and while the left hand learns its place and its job. Most students, in my experience, get this backwards. They have the left hand really far away from the flute, struggling to reach, and the right hand ends up holding more of the weight than it needs to, which limits its mobility. So I like to practice this. Practice getting the left hand right underneath the flute. It really comes down to this nice squishy spot at the base of my first finger. I've started calling this spot George because I was talking with one of my younger students. I think she was 7 at the time. And I said, I don't know the name for this squishy little pillow, the base of your first finger. I don't know the name for that part of your hand. We should give it a name. And she went, oh, George. So this is George. George is going to hold the flute for you. I'm going to have you watch me shift from suitcase to playing position one more time, and watch how George stays in place. The rest of the hand will sort of rotate around that point. Suitcase, there's George. Slide on out. And from this side, suitcase, there's George. Slide on out. So the rest of the hand will open up a little bit. It'll remain on George, and we'll slide on out to our left hand position. And in a private lesson setting, I will use this prep position maybe for a lesson or two, depending on the student and how they progress. In a band classroom, it may help you to use it for a week or longer, whatever suits you best. But I like giving the flutist something that they can find more immediate success making a sound on the whole flute. When they're feeling really comfortable and confident, then you say, all right, you're ready. Let's complete those fingerings by adding the pinky. And then you can show them where to put their right hand, and we'll add the pinky. And hopefully at this point, the right hand will be more like just resting your hand on a bar in ballet class. It's more about balance and not gripping. George has already got the flute, and the right hand will add our balance. If your students are still struggling, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If this was helpful, for more content like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.